let's bring in Jeff Pasquino from the footballguys.com as we get ready for tonight's Thursday night matchup. Jeff, how are you?
Doing well. How you guys doing?
All good, man. And we got Washington and Dallas tonight. We know Dallas's offense has been a mess. Washington's had all sorts of injuries. So who are you playing in tonight's Thursday night matchup?
Well, based on how Phillip Rivers just destroyed Dallas last Thursday, I think you have to be all over Kirk Cousins and his receivers. And I'm looking at James and Crowder. I think Dotson is also a viable play. And it looks like Vernon Davis is going to be your tight end. So those are my guys. On Dallas, you might roll the dice with Dak Prescott, and if you need a running back, Rod Smith seems to be their only option. Dez is always in play, but that's about all I can touch.
All right, that's for tonight's Thursday night matchups. Don't forget, get your players into the lineup if you have Thursday night players. Let's look at some quarterbacks this week, Jeff. And how about Russell Wilson against this Eagles team? He's been a very good fantasy player. He's been about the only offensive player for Seattle, but good pass rush, weak offensive line. I don't know, how do you like this matchup if you're a Russell Wilson fan?
Well, it's a tough matchup for him for sure, but he is the offense for Seattle, and he touches the ball on every play, and he's the leading rusher. So I think he's got a very high fantasy floor, going to be a solid running quarterback one with some upside.
All right, how about you look at Cam Newton against this Saints team? It's a big matchup there. Cam Newton in the fantasy playoffs here. Is he a guy you can rely on?
I really like him, but I really want to watch the injury report, both on himself and also the New Orleans secondary. We got Lattimore, who might be banged up again. If he's out, that's a plus for Newton, but Newton's thumb's a little bit banged up, and Greg Olsen may or may not play. If he doesn't play, I think you got like Christian McCaffrey as a receiver, so I think there's options either way. But if Cam Newton's healthy and the Saints are not, I love Cam Newton.
All right, remember some people in the fantasy playoffs here, so big decisions to be made. How about Matt Ryan against Minnesota?
That's a tough matchup, and everybody's going to be on Julio Jones after such a big week. But the secondary from Minnesota, normally they're very weak. Normally they're very great every week, but they had a rough showing against Detroit. So I like Matt Ryan as a lower quarterback one, but not as much upside as last week.
Couple more. Matt Stafford against Baltimore. He played well against Minnesota on Thanksgiving Day.
He did, and he's put up a lot of yards. The problem has been getting touchdowns, but I think they're starting to come around. That regression's starting to be there. I think that we saw that Jimmy Smith can be beaten last week, and I think I like Detroit this week. I like the passing game as well. So, yes, on Stafford.
Okay, Jameis Winston's back. They got a decent matchup against Green Bay. Do you trust him if you need a fantasy playoff quarterback?
I don't know if I trust him, but I'm willing to use him if I need him. And the reason I'm hesitant on that is not just I like the Green Bay secondary. They're very bad. It's a great option for Winston. The problem is he's lost two offensive linemen, the center and the tackle. So with those guys going down, and those were very high-rated offensive linemen, that's a problem for Winston and getting some protection in the passing game.
Talking with Jeff Pasquino from the footballguys.com, helping you with your Week 13 fantasy football matchups. If you have a question for Jeff, send us a text at 609-403-0973. Let's look at some running backs here. You got the split in New Orleans, but Kamara seems like a guy that you got to start playing.
Yes, I think both of them are viable options, but the Kamara can't keep producing at the rate that he's been going at. 2 touchdowns, 10-plus yards every reception. That's a bit much to ask on a consistent basis. So I look at his value to come down. I look for Ingram's value to go up.
Yeah, like Kareem Hunt early in the season. He couldn't keep that pace up, but he has crashed and burned. What about him against the Jets this week?
I'm definitely off the Hunt train anymore. I think that something's definitely wrong with that team. The only one I trust is Travis Kelce.
All right, let's look at Jordan Howard. He did not have a very good week against the Eagles. Does he rebound in the fantasy football playoffs against San Francisco?
I think he's a definite running back, too, with upside. He's their main guy. He gets a lot of touches. The 49ers have lost some depth on their linebacker core. I like Howard as a running back, too, this week.
Okay, what about you look at, Jamal Williams for Green Bay, another guy who, they're playing for the Packers. A lot of people not looking at them with Brett Hundley, but is Williams the guy that you can start counting on to get you some points?
I think he is, and I think the matchup looks good. Last week he played well because Hundley was throwing the ball efficiently, which opened things up. Lots of people liked Williams in the preseason. He was down on the depth chart, but now he rose up because of the injuries. And now that the offense is balanced out, he's definitely got opportunities, and Tampa Bay is not good on defense.
You've been waiting for Joe Mixon all year. He finally gave you a big week, back-to-back against Pittsburgh?
I think so. I think he's a running back, too. I'm a little hesitant there. There's going to be a lot of hesitancy you'll hear in my voice because we have some good players in bad matchups and some mediocre players in good matchups. So there's going to be questions all around your lineups this week. Mixon's seen a lot of volume, and he's starting to find that end zone, and that's what really matters. And Pittsburgh's defense is overrated.
Jeff Pasquino, wow, Jeff Pasquino from the footballguys.com answering your fantasy football questions. If you have a question for Jeff, send us a text, 609-403-0973. PT is putting those questions together. We'll get them to you in just a minute. Get a couple of wide receiver help from Jeff here. How about Keenan Allen against Cleveland? Does he keep his hot streak going with Phillip Rivers throwing him the ball?
Absolutely. I think he's a top 3 wide receiver this week. That's the way he beat Cleveland. Cleveland has been giving up more to running backs of late, and when you're an 0-11 team, you tend to do that. But Keenan Allen is definitely the top option for Phillip Rivers, and he's going to keep riding that hot streak.
How about this Robbie Anderson's been going crazy the last couple of weeks. Should we get Robbie Anderson into the lineup?
Yeah, I marked him to definitely mention this week. I think that eventually it's going to have to come down to earth, but I think that it's still a good matchup for him. It's just a question of whether he finds the end zone, and he's definitely consistently getting those looks. They've been long looks for the most part, though. That's why you have to be a little bit hesitant, but he is their wide receiver 1, and they're probably going to be throwing against Kansas City, so he's a wide receiver 2 with upside.
Cooper Kupp against Arizona. Can he keep it going?
Yes, because I think that you're going to see Watkins locked down by Patrick Peterson. Kupp may see some coverage from the Honey Badgers, but I think that Cooper Kupp is probably the best target in that offense.
All right, Tyreek Hill. We talked about Hunt, but what about Tyreek Hill? He's another one who hasn't given you much.
That's definitely true, and it's been a problem with that whole offense right now for Kansas City. Again, I don't trust anybody for a consistent basis. He's a wide receiver 3 for sure because he gets plenty of touches, targets, but the production hasn't been there to rate him any higher.
All right, last one for Jeff before your question. Send us a text, 609-403-0973 if you want your question on the air with Jeff Pasquino. Last guy I'll give you is, how about Mike Evans? Been a disappointing year for Evans owners, but does he turn it around in the playoffs with Jameis Winston back?
He should because, again, he's the number 1 receiver. Winston is back. Green Bay's secondary suspect. Again, the offensive line is the question. But if there's enough time for Winston to throw, and there should be on enough occasions, then Evans is a wide receiver 1 this week.
Okay, rapid fire time. That's my turn, Jeff. So a texter wants to know Breeze or Wilson. The playoffs are on the line.
Yeah, I think that because the Saints rely on the run more, I think I got to go with Russell Wilson.
In a PPR league, Tate, Dion Lewis, or Woodhead?
I think Dion Lewis is definitely a solid option. I would go with him.
Charles Clay or Delanie Walker for my tight end spot, Jeff. Please help.
I would go to Delanie Walker against Houston. I think Tennessee's going to throw the ball a lot again this week.
Here's someone with 2 leagues, Carr, Stafford, Mariota, or Tyrod. I need 2 starters. I have 2 leagues.
I would go with Stafford, and I would go with Carr because the Giants are banged up in the secondary.
There's a defensive one. Someone wants to know Lions defense, special teams, Vikings defense, special teams.
I would lean towards Minnesota. They're more consistent.
Okay, running backs, Freeman, Perrine, Alfred Morris, Rex Burkhead, PPR full point league.
I would go with Freeman and Rex Burkhead as your second.
Stafford or Mariota? Ron from Vineland loves the show and loves the Jeff Pasquino segment, he says.
Excellent. So I would go with Matthew Stafford.
Hunter Henry or Graham at tight end?
Jimmy Graham against the Eagles. I think he's getting a ton of targets in the red zone. He's their wide receiver 1 effectively.
And that's not the only Hunter Henry question. Another one in a PPR league, Vernon Davis or Hunter Henry?
There I go with Hunter Henry. I think Hunter Henry is getting more involved in offense. Cleveland is terrible against tight ends.
All right, Jeff Pasquino, we got a lot of questions coming in. We're running out of time. We want Jeff to give us a couple of under-the-radar guys that he is playing this week that maybe could help you out. Don't forget, we've got the fantasy playoffs. So make sure you pay attention and get your guys active. Jeff, who are some guys that might be able to help out some teams this week?
Well, sticking at tight end there, the number one tight end that we didn't mention this week, I think that he's a guy that could be on your waiver wire. Jared Cook against the Giants. The Oakland Raiders are banged up on wide receiver suspensions, injuries. Jared Cook is a good option to go get. Speaking of the Raiders, I think Cordarrelle Patterson should be available. He's probably going to be your wide receiver one. Also, Josh Reynolds could be seeing a lot of targets. He was involved last week for the Rams. He could be up there again this week. And running back, there's not too much on the waiver wire, but I think either Dean Lewis or Rex Burkhead are solid options. And again, Rod Smith if you're desperate for a running back starter this week.
Okay, Jeff Pasquino from thefootballguys.com here, answering all your fantasy football questions for week number 13. Thank you, Jeff. Good luck to you.
Good luck, everybody. Enjoy the games.